Our study for today is based on Job chapter 20, verse 1. Then Zophar the Naamathite replied, "My troubled thoughts prompt me to answer, because I am greatly disturbed. I hear a rebuke that dishonors me, and my understanding inspires me to reply." That last line is important in verse 3, friends. My understanding inspires me to reply. Zophar hinges all his replies on his personal, what he calls, understanding, and later on we will see that all he has is the lack of it. He is going to present his case with the same type of an argument which he had used before. He says that he's going to repeat an age-established fact. What is this age-established fact? Verses 6 and 7. Though his pride reaches to the heavens and his head touches the clouds, he will perish forever, like his own dung. Those who have seen him will say, "Where is he?" He can get dramatic too, this man Zophar. Though his excellency mount up to the heavens, his head reach into the clouds. The language again is very spectacular, tremendous here. As I have said, people will read the book of Job for its expressive language. Even though they may not read any other book in the Bible, they would read the book of Job because its language is fantastic. Now notice verses 8 onwards. Like a dream, he flies away, no more to be found, banished like a vision of the night. The eye that saw him will not see him again. His place will look on him no more. His children must make amends to the poor. His own hands must give back his wealth. Very candidly, it seems to me that man is the greatest failure in God's universe. Consider the brevity of man. They tell us how old the rocks are, even the rocks that came from space, the moon. Man hasn't been around that long. Like a dream, he flies away, no more to be found. If there is not an eternity ahead of us. Some believe that man is the most colossal failure that God has ever made, the crown of creation, the one who is made in his own image. His life is brief. He flies away like a dream. Verse 11, the youthful vigor that fills his bones will lie with him in the dust. He will spit out the riches he swallowed. God will make his stomach vomit them up. For he has oppressed the poor, left them destitute. He has seized houses he did not build. Surely he will have no respite from his craving. He cannot save himself by his treasure. Nothing is left for him to devour. His prosperity will not endure. Very depressing words. He suggests that such a man is like fuel, which will be quickly consumed. He is like an evil vision, which will disappear. His evil is like a sweet morsel that he keeps under his tongue, but it will turn to gall within him. It is like food that he eats, but God will compel him to disgorge his unjustly amassed fortune and will force him to make restitution to his victims. Verse 23. When he is filled his belly, God will vent his burning anger against him and rain down blows upon him, although nothing could escape his greed. This man will be reduced to poverty. Worst of all, God will cast his fury, his wrath upon him. Verse 26, 27, and 28 now. Total darkness lies in wait for his treasures. A fire unfanned will consume him, devour what is left in his tent. The heavens will expose his guilt. The earth will rise up against him. A flood will carry off his house, rushing waters on the day of God's wrath. In other words, he will become a raging flame, and all his prosperity will go up in flames. There will be no avenue of escape. He's trapped, checkmated. The earth will rise up against him. The heavens will expose his guilt. The earth and the heavens are against him. Job has been listening to all this from his so called friend Zophar, the senior member of the group, who bases all his argument and words on legalism. Job ventures to answer in chapter 21. Job is still able to come back with an answer, his sixth answer. I think it would have been better if he had not tried to get into this tangled answer of Zophar's brutal accusation. But he is going to defend himself again. He tells them that he's growing weary of their false charges. He appeals his case to a higher court. He agrees with them that the wicked will be punished, but insists that this does not apply to his case. Notice verse 1. Then Job replied, "Listen carefully to my words. Let this be the consolation you give me. Bear with me while I speak, and after I have spoken, mock on." Job wants their attention and sarcastically says that he is going to console them. Listen carefully to my words, verse 2, Job says. Let them be the consolation you give me. They gave him not an inch, not an ounce of consolation. Bear with me while I speak, and after I have spoken, you can continue to mock me. Look at me and be astonished. Clap your hand over your mouth. In other words, no more words. Clap your hands, clasp your hands, keep your mouth quiet when you speak to me. Verse 7. Why do the wicked live on, growing old, increasing in power? An age-old question here. They see their children established around them, their offspring before their eyes, their homes are safe, free from fear. The rod of God is upon them. Their bulls never fail to breed. Their cows calve and do not miscarry. The bulls, the cows, the calves, their homes, their offspring. But the essence of this particular presentation is verse 7. He submits, why do the wicked live on, growing old, increasing in power? Job is now going to point out a fallacy in their argument. The wicked do not always suffer in this life. In fact, the wicked prosper, the righteous perish. They are not always cut off. Sometimes they attain old age. Their properties remain intact. Their children inherit and amass great wealth. Verse 11, they send forth their children as a flock. Their little ones dance around them. They sing to the music of the tambourine and harp. They make merry the sound of the flute. They spend their years in prosperity, go down to the grave in peace. They may have a flock, a whole entire group of children. They dance and are gay and rejoice. They have a good time and they live it up. The sound of music, tambourine, harp, flute, spend years in prosperity and go down to the grave in peace. You may say that their fall is going to be apparent, but you are mistaken, friends. Like others, they also go down to the grave, but without a catastrophe striking them beforehand. Verse 14. Yet they say to God, leave us alone. We have no desire to know your ways. Who is the Almighty that we should serve him? What would we gain by praying to him? Godless people, they have no place for God in their lives. They insultingly say that they don't need God nor desire to know God's holy ways. What could God give them? They say to each other that they can't get for themselves. Verse 18, how often are they like straw before the wind, like chaff swept away by a gale? It is said, God stores up a man's punishment for his sons. God stores up a man's punishment for his sons. Let him repay the man himself, so that he will know it. Verse 20, let his own eyes see his destruction. Let him drink from the wrath of the Almighty. Notice how Job describes the wicked. They are like straw before the wind, chaff before the gale. God stores up punishment like in a storehouse for his children. Let him repay the man himself so that he will know it. Why should God take it out on his children when the man himself must experience what sin can cause? Suffering, intense suffering. Let his own eyes see his own destruction, and one day let him drink the wrath of the Almighty. Death, friends, is no respecter of persons. Time comes when death knocks at the door of the wicked. There comes a time of judgment when he will drink the wrath of the Almighty. Job shows his friends that there are proverbs and that their proverbs are not always true. But that doesn't mean that God is not going to judge the wicked someday. Job tries to answer them, but not all his answers are very convincing. But even then, Job tries to answer them. Verse 29. Have you never questioned those who travel? Have you paid no regard to their accounts, that the evil man is spared from the day of calamity, that he is delivered from the day of wrath? The judgment of the wicked may not be until the judgment, but judgment will come eventually. God will permit the sinner to live it up to his full here on earth as he wants to do. You see, friends, God is gracious. God is long suffering. The goodness and the forbearance and the long suffering of God should not lead to arrogance, but must lead to repentance. Man so naturally takes this goodness of God for granted. He so easily uses God's forbearance as a license to sin. God's love does not change, does not waver. There is an ocean of God's love available. There is plenty for everyone. May God grant you never to doubt that victorious love. When we worship, we are actually saying, He is everything. He is everything. He is everything. Friends, in good times or in bad times, God deserves our worship. Friends, good times, bad times must be worship times. Learn from the life of Job. May God bless you, friends.